Okay, just some random thoughts here on this Star Trek Day of 2023. Now that the crisis I thought I was facing turned out to be nothing, we can now get back to work and go back in our proper lanes here, and I can get back to just trying to, try to get, return things to normal on that side instead of having to think, oh my God, someone's going to die, and I go nuts. So, all right. The state of the franchise at this point. This is a case of, they're pushing the thing of Star Trek, Star Trek, but the franchise has been not the greatest shape right now because of stuff going on. But I'm bouncing up Doomcock's post on Twitter or X, whatever they're calling it this week. The thing has never been this broken. Well, again, it's and thinking they're finally real. No, they've known for quite a while behind those famous Melrose Avenue gates. Melrose, I think they've known very well what is wrong. Just that up until now, they haven't had a chance to do anything about it because of that damn contract. And like I said there, Les Moonves, may you smoke a turd in hell for foisting that on us. Why does he hate us? I can understand not really liking science fiction, but why the particular hatred for Star Trek? That's what I can't understand. But now that things are starting to run out on that contract, and again, how Discovery got axed, got shown the door right when that fifth season. Okay, that's you're done. That was the obligation, a 5-year contract, a 5-year guarantee. And thankfully, it's also a very short season, so we're only talking not even the equivalent of like midway second season original series. Well, maybe just a little bit past midway. They were doing about 20. I think first season was 28, second one was like 26. So just about the latter part of the second season of the original series. I think like 5 seasons. So what? Short seasons don't count as much. But other stuff, it's like not so much guaranteed wise. Okay, so Picard apparently was only up to 3, and the fact that it was winning anyway. They didn't care what Terry Matalas do, and an actual fan and Star Trek veteran got in the door and was able to start setting things right and showing this is how it's done, guys. All right. And again, I admit it's still tied to the previous 2 seasons, and that ties to Discovery. So yes, there is that tinge there. But it shows that you can actually these characters you write these things properly. You treat them, you start showing the thing with some respect. Yeah, okay, more relaxed on my response. Then you can bring back the and again, it was fan servicey, and after years of abuse by the people in charge, we deserve that fan service, okay? So I'm not going to begrudge them the fact, the Enterprise zooming in. We needed that, okay? We needed someone who knew how to do it, too. So, we needed servicing the heart, okay? Like a lap dance from an Orion slave girl while another one's down there, doing what. That's the level of fan service we had earned after the years of abuse we'd been gotten from Kurtzman and his company through Discovery and the previous 2 seasons of Picard. So and I picked up the Blu-ray of season 3 of Picard yesterday. If someone tries to voice out 2 seasons, no, what do we do to you? Fuck you. Or it's going to be, well, thank you for the coaster set, but these will never see the inside of a Blu-ray player. But I also offered up, the strikes in this case will be a good thing for the free. A lot of studios are around saying this is our chance to finally unload some crap that nobody really wants. But contracts are signed, we're stuck with them. But the strike kind of throws a lot of contracts out the wall, out the window, or through the wall. Just because certain things are tied to certain calendar dates, and it's like if they're not going to be met, well, sorry, that expired. And you're going to see them. They've already, Warner Brothers already pulled the plug on J.J. Abrams, Mindy Kaling, and some other schmucks, deals over there. So that, there goes that. So, and Disney is probably looking to dump some stuff too. Don't be surprised if because there is actually, it's not just all Mousetrap.com. There's some serious talk about not but doing something to get rid of this Snow White thing they're stuck with. But apparently, more close to home to Paramount, don't be surprised if, because nobody wants Starfleet Academy. Okay, that's one of those contractual obligation things. But it's like if the contract runs out, no, we don't have to make it now. And Section 31, it already got downgraded from a full series to a movie, one shot. And you think Michelle Yeoh's going to sit around forever for that thing? No, that contract runs out. No, bye. Yeah. No, we're not making it now. They've announced plenty of stuff that never happened, okay? How many times has JJ Star Trek 4 been announced and never happened? We've had directors. There's supposedly been scripts involved, but never happened. And we also need to realize that is not unusual for Hollywood through the decades. It's not just the stuff that announced and never made. Stuff that's actually been made and never released. There's completed movies in the vaults, if there hasn't been a fire, that are sitting there and never seen the light of day. Because at the end of the day, it's like, no, we ain't releasing that. We got a reputation to keep up. No, we ain't doing that. And a few things probably came close to not, the way Bob Iger torpedoed John Carter. I mean, that movie deserved so much better. It's a pretty good retelling of the John Carter of Mars story. It's essentially Princess of Mars. But because it wasn't done under his tutelage, and he was also looking to, at the time, looking for getting Lucasfilm, he had no obligation whatsoever. And they put out a piss poor ad campaign and just did not support that movie at all. It wasn't until it was the fan made trailers. And again, the same style of what Disney been doing, but they explain, this is where all these your Star Wars and everything. This is where it came from. This is the story that inspired all this other stuff here. This is why you need to pay attention to it. And it's from the same guy who gave you Tarzan. Okay, so get a little cachet. And the director of others in movies you liked. So like, hey, come on, let's have this. It should have done much better. It probably still would have lost me because it was way over budget. But it was not an out of control production. It was a little looser as far as making it, but it wasn't crazy. They wouldn't, but it should have done much better. It should have been supported by the studio. This mentality. We already have a boyfriend. You can have more than one boy franchise, you idiots. Okay. Like how many? Technically, how many girl franchises? That's part of the problem. Everything was Disney princesses, and they're looking something for the boys, which of course they get in, and then the idiots start trying to turn Star Wars into girl stuff. No, I know for a fact. There's always been girls who like Star Wars. You didn't have to do that crap. The mentality is insane inside that little bubble, But yeah, I predict, sort of prediction, more like just what's probably going to happen in one form or another. But I don't think Starfleet Academy is going to happen. I think Section 31 is ripe for pruning. Strange New Worlds might get one more season. Might not. It depends. It's an expensive show. Legacy will happen. That's pretty much all but assured on that because, again, that petition that Popcast guys put up, that got a lot of attention. And it is even bigger than the one that got a Strange New Worlds. And also, especially with the little thing, again, Metalis in charge. It's his baby. And Lower Decks, that is the one solid hit they have, and with a good portion of fan support, because it hits the right buttons in the right way. Because think of it this way, it's like a piano concerto was really just sitting on the camera and hitting the keys. Okay, if you don't hit them in the right order, it doesn't work right, and people walk out. When you hit them in the right order, then you got something. Lower Decks hits them in the right order. Maybe a little loud, maybe a little frantic, but you can recognize the tune. These people are, again, the Lower Decks, and again, it's so good. No, it's not really. He's just getting a check. He has nothing to do creatively with the show. None of his writers have anything creative. Mike McMahon has his own crew on there, and they're all a bunch of hardcore fans, and they love being in the Star Trek universe, and they will use every toy in the sandbox they have, and they know how to use it. They know the time. They know these characters what they were and where they fit and everything else. So yeah, reference, but yeah, it's accurate references. It's not just name dropping. It's not just something they pulled off on memory. Oh yeah, that looks good. Like the Gorn. It's clear Strange New Worlds has no freaking clue about the Gorn. Oh yeah, the lizard guy. Make up your own damn creature, okay? In that case, because what you presented was nothing resembling the Gorn. This is not an intelligent spacefaring race with established territory. This is just a bunch of parasites. And that's the thing. When we've seen the Gorn presented on Lower Decks, it's the Gorn. It's a little goofy because they have like a Gorn wedding when they Gorn in a wedding dress, but it's still the Gorn. These are, it's still tell there's an intelligence here. They're having fun with it, but they're not, totally degrading it in the process. Because of that, yeah, they're having fun with it, but it's still with love and with knowledge of what they're doing. And that's why you're also getting a lot of, people who have like Jeffrey Combs come back and thing and begin getting guest voices here and there. People want to, and also notable, just it's some stunt camp, but you get people who notable people doing voices for Lower Decks. Because this is the good stuff. This is more like, because once upon a time, before the dark times of Alex Kurtzman and J.J. Abrams, getting a chance to do a Star Trek show was noticed. And amongst the character actor, well, this is you're going to get good stuff on Star Trek. You'll get something meaty. It's not just show them, hi, I'm a guy. You'll get a good stuff there because a lot of people, that's why you get some of the same reactions because they love doing a Star Trek. This was challenging as an actor to do this stuff. And they love doing it. But Lower Decks, I think, will continue to build up on the, like at the various Vegas cons. Is that where it's like the Lower Deck? They do a Lower Decks, and you get enthusiasm for them, and you get them chanting Lower Decks, Lower Decks. I mean, and it was a great gesture when they did that when they showed up on stage in costume. Because the people involved love what they're doing. They're all Star Trek fans themselves. So from everyone, Star Trek. It's a good Star Trek too. It's, cause you got again, if you don't like Rick and Morty, you don't like animation. There's nothing I can do to correct change that. But if you can't handle the thing, and Lower Decks is really it's kind of what like they call Cheers sort of a radio show. Well, you don't necessarily have to watch it; just listen to it and hear the dialogue. Yeah, I mean, even Mecha reckon, when they did the crossover with Strange New Worlds, that Mariner's not quite as annoying in live action because you get all the subtleties, and Tawny can really show off her acting there. But if if you watch the animation, they do get little subtle things there. Just they convey quite a bit, even with the simplistic animation stuff. So it's like if you can handle animation. And the rapid fire banner. It's like, it's a good show. There's a lot of good, deep Star Trek stories going on behind all the references and the banter. Okay, because I'm gonna go through and at some point and start playing. What are the overall story arcs? And it's not just Beckett Mariner being drunk on duty. There's the whole thing with the Pakleds being pushed by the Klingons or by renegade Klingons and other things going on there. There's some big stuff here. It's true Star Trek stories behind there. The difference is that you don't have the Enterprise going in or the Titan or one of the other frontline ships. It's these schmucks in the back who's like they're really not suited for this. I mean they're gung ho Starfleet, but these are support crews. This is a support vessel. This isn't a frontline vessel. And thing is, that is where you get some of your best drama and your best comedy. Because it's like, little Jackie Gleason line. How drama is ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. Comedy is extraordinary people in ordinary circumstances. And you got kind of both of that with Lower Decks. Because these are people they're not standard. These are not man on the street type of thing. These are Starfleet. They did sign up for it, and they're doing some pretty mundane stuff. They're doing supply runs. There's making the second contact where you start. Okay, well we're going to set up the communications thing and find out what the good restaurants are, and just do mundane stuff. A lot of people who do dream of being on the Enterprise making the first contact stuff, like Boimler, And also, people who have been there, like Mariner. She was on a fast track for her own command. And she was, but something happened. There's some kind of trauma there that's like, not out, and started self-sabotaging herself to knock her out, constantly back to ensign, where she doesn't have to deal with this crap. And there is. There right there. You got some interesting character interaction right there. She's not a Mary Sue. If she was a Mary Sue, she'd be commanding the Enterprise herself by now. But no, it's like something happened that screwed up her, and she is pretty much being saved by this, because they can't necessarily have, the daughter of an admiral and a captain, being drummed out of the service for doing something, whatever, something weird during the mission. It's like, no, we're going to try and save her. We've invested too much in her training and other things, and I'd like to see her service record to that point, because it's like something to say that we don't want to lose her. She's got too much potential here. We're going to try, shift her around to various. Finally, it's like, Captain Freeman, you're going to have to caretake your daughter for a while until she gets her head straight, okay? Because we do have high hopes for her one day, but she needs to get her head out of her butt, And we've gone through half the fleet, okay? So, and she was stationed on DS9 at one point, okay? So if even Cisco has, get off my station. But yeah, that's, there is some good stuff there. I mean, I think the DS9 episode is also, because they get on there, and you're not really you're in an episode of DS9, and all the machinations there where they're ready to kidnap, Quark back to the Delta Quadrant. And all that, and again, the interplay was there. It's like, go, I have principles. No, you don't. And, it was spot on. Okay. And Prodigy, I believe they're on the verge of announcing a new. I think there's some indications that they have reached at least a tentative deal with somebody to pick it up, and it'll keep going and it'll build. Because I think I think the problem with Prodigy is, again, it's a full CGI show. That is going to be a little more expensive than, the animation they do in Lower Decks. And there's a little more thought involved to it. It's plot now. But also, animation's cheaper than live action, but not that much. Okay, so they needed, again, farm it out to some other, who, like a Netflix or an Amazon, who will fund at least part of the production and carry it and be more willing to pick it up for me. Because if it stayed with Paramount and Paramount Plus, might have gone 3 seasons. With Netflix or Amazon or some other service picking it up, it could go on for quite a while. We could see Dahl get his own commission time. They could go on a few more years here, and that's good for everybody, because it is a damn good show. And I did finally get an answer of why Jankum Pog looks like a Talaxian, but is constantly referred to as a Tellarite. Okay, and I'll let it slide because the show is that good. That I'll accept that because he's a juvenile Tellarite. He's still a youngster, and youngsters look like Talaxians. And when they grows up, he'll start getting furrier, and he'll look more like a proper Tellarite. Okay, I'll allow it. At least I finally got an answer, and it was from the head writer. Okay. From the show. It wasn't somebody else speculating. It was from the head writer, and he's the one who decides this stuff. Okay, fine, I'll allow it. Because it is a damn good show. And it said there's other species that look a hell of a alike, Again, mainly because, you don't have many Hortas in central casting. You can do one off in the costume shop, and that's it. But yeah, it's like, let's take a case, that one, the Perfect Bride type, or Perfect Mate, with Famke Janssen. And then next thing that's what the Trill looked like. Even the fact we've seen Trill before with the big fucking horn heads, the foreheads. And all it looked like when they tried to on Terry Ferris, looks like she got smacked in the face with a 2x4. It's like, no, we can't do that. I mean, I'm sure there was an element of maybe they won't notice. No, we notice. We take notes. I got how many books over here? Showing this is how much we know. Going back to the daddy of them all, and this is not the first version, okay? There's a couple of fan-made versions that predate this at the time of the production of this series, okay? We keep notes. So, yeah. We keep very careful notes and write big, gigantic books about them and then sell them and make, hopefully making pain. That's another thing I'm hoping will end soon. Once Kurtzman is finally shown the door, we can finally get a return to doing stuff like that. Because that's the reason why there is not a final edition of the Concordance to would have coincided with the 50th anniversary. Might get the 60th. I don't know. God willing, if Bijo's still around or she bequeaths me something or other, I will. I still got the files and I'm still taking notes here and there. So maybe there'll be one for the 60th. Who knows? But I'm still holding out hope. I got I can't just dump this information. Okay. But yeah, But the thing is, the reason why there isn't an edition is because and in words, they do not want to share credit or royalties. And that's borne out by the fact of how many writers have they ripped off during the course of the production of like Discovery and Strange New Worlds, especially and the crowning jewel was the way they cut and pasted almost the entirety of Balance of Terror, with no credit to Paul Schneider or reference reference to Balance of Terror. They're pretending like they made this up out of whole cloth, and that is, frankly, a rather egregious violation of WGA rules. They're ripping off so many people that's going to be a class action lawsuit by the time this finally gets wound out. I mean, during that thing where they prop up the Guardian of Forever, I'm sure if you listen carefully, you hear Harlan Ellison screaming from the great beyond, "You assholes! It's in my will. Do not let Star Trek touch Guardians of Forever." No. He could have come through. If he could, he would have come back from the dead, kicked in Alex Kurtzman's office door, and said, "What the fuck are you doing to my story?" I have a team of lawyers on your front door the next week, and you'll be having your kidneys for lunch. That's the thing. A lot of these writers, they make, because again, I think one thing they learned when they ripped off Anas Abdin's tardigrade thing, is that, okay, from now on, we only rip off writers who are dead. And that's the thing. They've all been ripping off writers who are rather conveniently dead and can't speak up. Because we lost Dorothy Fontana a while back. They ripped off her, Vulcan's Glory backstory for number one. Harlan Ellison we lost there, and Ursula K. Le Guin's no longer with us, and a bunch of other. It's easy to plagiarize a dead author who can't speak for themselves. Unfortunately, actors, they're still representation for dead actors. They're getting more work now than they did when they're alive. Sometimes there's a whole agency in Hollywood dedicated to servicing dead actors, getting them gigs. You see these commercials. We started off with John Wayne showing up in a Coors Light ad with Arlie Ermey. And it's like this was good 20 years after he died, 10, 20 years after he died, and it's like okay. And that kind of started the thing rolling. It's like, to the point where it's like, a while back when I was still in California, and Mark and Brian on KLOS, they had because they would bring in celebrities periodically, and as guest DJs and they had the idea, let's get Lee Marvin. Yeah, that's and they were all excited about it. But because of all this thing, they didn't realize Lee Marvin had died until they finally got a hold of his. I'm sorry, Mr. Marvin's no longer with us. Okay, why, is he left? No, he's dead. He died about 5 years ago. Oh, crap. That's how pervasive it is now. It's like, they're dead, so what? I mean, Laurence Olivier showed up in Sky Captain of the World of Tomorrow, enabling Jude Law to fulfill a lifelong dream to act opposite Laurence Olivier. Did I say Olivier? Yeah, Olivier. They pulled footage of him from an old commercial or something he'd done. And you got Marlon Brando. You got in the Donner cut of Superman 2. because they never finished that stuff. Man, I think I'm not even sure the bit where he comes forward and breaks out of the hologram and touches Clark. I don't think that was even gotten to beyond storyboard phase. It was like, so they had to do a little CGI work and yeah. How I got on this tangent, I'm not sure, but I think the future for Star Trek is on a positive swing because the contracts are starting to expire that tied us to this bunch of Nimrods. But it's also brought us from people who know what they're doing, namely Terry Matalas and Mike McMahon and the Hageman brothers over on Prodigy. That's the future right now for keeping this franchise alive and revitalized and showing people, no, this is what Star Trek is all about. It's not about an actual Mary Sue starting the Klingon War but being forgiven and given her own ship. No, that's a Mary Sue right there. Just because she cries all the time doesn't mean she's not, a Mary Sue. I mean, she makes arguments. She sasses back to admirals and doesn't get busted back to ensign. No, Mariner did that and got busted back to ensign after being, promptly, up to lieutenant. Nope, get her out of here. I mean, the only one good thing in the very first episode, which of course they blew the continuity of that in the first 5 minutes, but when they decided, they found Mariner guilty of starting the Klingon War and decided to stick her under the stockade. But we can't have that, so of course they drag her out, and here we go. It's like, if you like Discovery, I'm sorry, but you're not seeing the real thing, okay? There's a lot of stuff that, people, it passes for drama because everyone's so emotionally and angst-driven and drama written. It's like, nobody on that ship is there because they actually believe in Starfleet. They're all there trying to, exercise themselves from some past demons of trauma or whatever. No one's out there because I wanted to join Starfleet. No, my family life was quite happy. Okay? It's like, no. Everyone's, everybody, even Pike they had to, pre-trauma him with him knowing what's going to happen later on, but even then they got that wrong. You really think he's going to die? No, you're not going to die. You're just going to be horribly disfigured and stuck in a wheelchair. You're still going to be, there. But they gave him traumas from beforehand, and Spock is traumatized out the wazoo, and Uhura's, everyone's like, for Christ's sakes, this is not a starship, it's a floating insane asylum. These people need to be locked up. And that's the thing, again, contrast it with Lower Decks. Prodigy, not quite so much, because they found the ship. And yeah, when they got back to Federation territory, that happened just like I said it should. They all got dragged in and, charged with, piracy. But Lower Decks, there's people on there, they signed up for Starfleet because they wanted to be in Starfleet. Even the lower rungs where they're running, delivering mail and running for pizza. No, they wanted to be in Starfleet. I think even Mariner, it was kind of a family thing because, some people that pieced together various things there and figured that Freeman was a crewman on the Enterprise D and had Beckett Mariner along and had Mariner along as her kid. She grew up on the Enterprise D. That's why she's not impressed. She's been there. She grew up there. She knows that ship backward and forwards like any kid would. And that's why, Riker knows her and knows, Carol and knows Beckett. And it's like, hey, So, you can fit. And again, if you know what you're doing when you're doing it, you can fill in those gaps because things make sense enough. Apparently she was a kid there and she was on DS9 for a while. We're still need to figure out what the hell happened on that one, I forget the name of the ship she was on where some kind of tragedy happened. That just rattled her, resolve. And it's like, no, I'm never, not going there. Not being a command, keep me back in the Lower Decks, okay? But yeah, that's another thing. The character development. She started off that wanted nothing to do with even making Lieutenant JG. No, she wanted to be down there as an ensign and just live her life and let everyone else, but occasionally her own, hero complex would step up, and she'd, rise to the occasion and, do what needed to be done. And that's probably why I can relate to her. It's like, I have this, I really don't want to do it, but it's like, okay, church, And again, with the same kind of disastrous results. But yeah, that's another topic for another video. But she's gone through quite a bit of character growth herself. She's no longer the just blatantly sarcastic doesn't do that. She's like, okay, and she's gone through some stuff that we've seen. She left Starfleet for a while, but then no, she had to come back and save her friends and her family on the Cerritos, and managed to sum up every California class in the quadrant to come charging to the rescue. Showing that the California class is not a stupid, outdated thing, and they're all pretty capable ships. But also a renewed resolve to start rebuilding her career. And apparently there will be some promotions handed out throughout this year. I think they're all going to get at least up to lieutenant junior grade. And I think in that one they'll probably do like what they suggested with a while back when there was like one cabin opening up, and there was them and four other from like Delta Shift or something. And which one's no? They put in 3 more beds, and it's their own little room. So they'll probably something like that. They'll get a cabin and they'll all bunk in together in the one room. So it'll still be the key to them, but they're no longer be living in the corridor. So, but yes, and Boimler's been through stuff. We still got Bill Boimler out there, or the other Boimler out there for Section 31. But even they were, hey, why do you think it's right? Why do they get having a badge? Okay, no, I'll take it. So if you watch it, they do take swipes at the other stuff going on. Okay, and again, if you want to lambast season 3 of Picard, it's not really Picard. I offer you up the USS New Jersey, a proper Constitution-class ship, identified as a Constitution-class ship. Its appearance and with no reference whatsoever to the Disco Prize. I think that goes into my theory of the timeline readjusting itself, realigning, and thus retconning out Strange New Worlds and the Disco Prize. Think about that, okay? And again, I also offer up the recommendation with Doomcock. He's like, support the good stuff. It prompts them to make more good stuff. But if you throw everything out, then you got no incentive for them to do anything. They might find what the return they're getting on it. Well, we'll meddle with that. And maybe someday we'll get something they'll actually like, but at least we're getting something back. No, you need to show a demonstrable difference in response. Between season 3 of Picard as opposed to seasons 1 and 2, which are utter crap, or in Strange New Worlds got response because it was actually a return to basics and away from the Sturm and angst and depression of Discovery. And the way they did Discovery shows that they knew something's not working here. Because season 2, okay, they brought in Captain Pike to try and liven things up, and it worked a little bit, but it's still stupid. And then season 3, how about we just throw it way in the future and get away from canon? Well, they're nice in theory, but canon still carries forward quite a bit. And canon is your backstory. It doesn't matter if your backstory goes back 10 years or 1,000 years. You're still your backstory, and you're still screwing up. So that didn't solve a damn thing. But it shows they're trying to find something to get out of this. And when it got them out of the way of running up against actual canon. But that's all it did. But so they knew even then this isn't working. The fans are in open revolt here. We're not getting the response we thought we were going to get. We thought these stupid Trekkies would buy anything. No, we don't. Again, we take very, very careful notes and write books about them and compile it all. Because I think, it may be a fact of just people not going to Sunday school or whatever, but a concordance. It shows how everything in accordance with each other, how these things fit together. That is what a concordance does. It's in the name. It's not just an encyclopedia of facts and figures or a chronology. It is a thing. This is how this fits together. And by Beatrice on a Mission, it took a while to figure out Kirk's backstory. What was his first assignment? Who was his first captain, type of thing. Because there is some contradictory things there. But when you're in a universe that has certain rules that make sense, you can figure these things out. Because is it the Republic or was it the Farragut? And talking about the first commander. Okay. So what we got here is, knowing how military academies work, you figured that, Kirk's fourth year, there was a training cruise on the Republic. That's how that came in, and he was such a, serious, student. He was one of those that got a promotion early to ensign. He didn't come out as a midshipman. He came out of the academy as an ensign. That happens in real academy. The top students, they'll get their promotions early. Or you could justify it as, for the purposes of the mission, of the training mission, you get, temporary ranks. You're not just all midshipmen. Okay, you get assigned. You're an ensign. You're a lieutenant. The leaders, the class leaders are, and that sort of thing. And yeah, for the purpose of this thing, and Ben Finney in that case, was one of the actual crew members of because you have the actual crew to supervise the cadets. And Finney screwed up, and Kirk noticed it, and there goes that idea for a promotion. So. But you can figure these things out, and that's how you reconcile the contradiction of, is it the Republic or was it the Farragut? And the truth is, and during the course of production, they kind of forgot that thing from the first season. And they want to do a story about this thing come back from Kirk's past, and then suddenly the Farragut pops up. But also by doing this, you also get to figure out, okay, and again, talking with the registry numbers, which again were just numbers thrown on a wall for the most part, for the purpose of giving an impression of consistency. You have registry numbers on the side of the ship. 1371 makes it a very old class of ship. Constitutions generally start in the 1700 range. But you get, 1300 something, then you're talking older class. And DS9 built on that when they had the Red Squad episode, where they refer to the Republic, that ship hasn't left, the solar system in 100 years. It was designated a training vessel. It was to help, when they started phasing out the previous class to the Constitution, they held on to one as a training vessel. It's like, the USS Constitution today. That ship hasn't gone very far since the 1800s, okay? But it's still it's an active duty naval vessel used for training. They take cadets, from Annapolis out there, and they do a little sailing out around the coast there, and they train them how to actually do seamanship. The old-fashioned way, sails and sextant and everything else. So the same sort of thing. In an age of Galaxy-class starships and Sovereign class, you still got this old rinky-dink, I'm calling it a Bonhomme Richard class, that, you're going to learn how to work this ship the old-fashioned way, okay? There's this stuff that was old when Scotty was on the Enterprise. Okay, so. But that's how when you have a coherent, consistent universe built up, which you make allowances for certain irregularities here and there because you can't keep track of everything, but that doesn't give you license to ignore everything, Alex. You got to try to keep it straight. You don't just they didn't keep it straight anyway, so screw it. We'll just do what we want. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay? So. And again, before anyone decides, what about these, Constitution collapse with 1600? Well, again, when you have a system that is, reasonably consistent, you can figure ways around these things. Those were originally slated to be the older class, but at that point, it's a number on a page and blueprints that have enough commonality in the, because we're talking ships maybe that were not much more than just, keels laid down at this point, not much built on it. You can change things here and there. So that unless you really know what you're looking for, you'd think this is a Constitution class from the get-go. And maybe it was, because it's like you only got a few beams of Durasteel laid down, or Duranium, and the rest of it you change. Okay, no, we're going with these plans now. Okay, we'll just here and there, and you'll wind up with a Constitution class ship. And you also, by doing that, you're not necessarily having to assign new. You can take these guys that were in construction anyway. Okay, yeah, we're gonna, because it takes years to build a starship. Okay. So the time the Constitution class is announced, you're probably still building some of the old stuff. They're entering final, phases of construction, and you can retrofit them. In the shuttle, the space shuttle thing. Enterprise was supposed to be an operational shuttle, but by the time it finally came out and they're doing the testing, there had been budget cuts to the launch system, and the Enterprise was now suddenly too heavy to be useful. It could go up, but it couldn't carry anything. You'd have the crew, but it wouldn't be. You couldn't take the plant with the satellites up to launch them there. Columbia was started as the same specs as Enterprise, but it was still in construction when these things happened, so they were able to change things in construction to lighten it up, and it still wound up being the heaviest one of the entire fleet. Challenger was the first one made completely with the new specs, and that's there's your real world analogy right there to explain the strangeness of the Starfleet. And again, real life, it's perfectly reasonable. This is the way it works in real life. It'll work perfectly fine in Star Trek too. And we're really getting off in the weeds here. So, all right, wrap it up here. Star Trek will be fine. We're in a rough patch here, but the pavement is in sight. Okay, we'll get out of this. So. But again, we're not going to get out of it by blindly supporting anything with a Star Trek label on it. We got to, point them like, no, more like this one here, and this one over here. Those are good. And this one here is really good. This other crap, no, let that go. And the stuff you got planned there, no one wants that. Don't do it. That sort of thing. We need to, it's free audience research. It's been used for decades. It was done for Star Trek itself, in fact, when they figured gauging fan reaction and writing letters to the studio. That is still a good thing. Don't just rely on the email. Anybody can crank out 50 emails in 20 minutes. Writing a letter takes some effort, and that is appreciated by the people because they still got the estimate of one actual letter that shows up represents about 50 people who didn't bother to write but feel the same way. And that, it worked for, the original series letter writing campaign. It worked today. So that's where we're at. And we'll talk at you later.